This episode contains spoilers for the final episodes of Better Call Saul, including the series finale, Saul Gone. If you've yet to watch those episodes, we recommend hitting pause now and coming back to this podcast after you've finished watching. Okay, with that warning out of the way, enjoy the show.
This is Peter Diseth, and if you like trans fats, you'll love Nostalgic Future Podcast.
This is the Nostalgic Future Podcast, where the past is the only way forward.
We're two guys in our 40s watching the world pass us by, and we know the only way we'll ever be relevant again is to somehow convince everyone to be as passionate as we are about our pop culture obsessions.
We're your hosts, Joe Cook and Chris Marchand, and today is our second Better Call Saul episode, the series finale, with guest Peter Diseth.
Well, everyone, we are tremendously excited with today's episode. Now, we're a young podcast, and to say something like, hey, we're going to do something we've never done before, it doesn't make all that much sense. But hey, we're going to do something we've never done before, which is to have a guest on for the second time. And the reason we're doing it is because it's something that's special to Joe and I. Joe and I are living out our nostalgia in the moment right now with the Better Call Saul finale. So on the podcast today, actor Peter Diseth once again plays Bill Oakley, attorney on Better Call Saul.
And Peter has the distinction, the great honor of being the first ever and second ever guest on this podcast.
He holds the record. He holds that record. Now, we're going to get to our conversation with him in a minute. We touch over a lot of fun things. We have a mailbag segment. Listeners, we hope we have some new listeners even that have engaged with us on Twitter. Thank you for sending us your questions. Hopefully we got all of them asked. And if we didn't get all of them asked, then maybe we addressed it earlier on in the conversation as well. We also wrap up our conversation talking about our own favorite or not favorite finales of television shows over the years. That was a fun conversation. Joe, before we get any further, we were going back and forth. Was it the Breaking Bad episode? And what I mean by that is there's an episode of Better Call Saul towards the end of the series called Breaking Bad. Of course, Walter White and Jesse Pinkman appear in it. You have all these weird connections with that episode. Is that correct?
Chris, it was the single strangest television watching experience of my life. I've never had an episode of television so oddly, specifically tailored to my life than the Breaking Bad episode of Better Call Saul, which was, I believe that was episode 611. It was the third to last episode. So I'm just going to say 30 seconds into the Breaking Bad episode, we see Saul is tied up on the RV, the crystal ship, and they're just showing different shots of the inside of the RV. And there's this one really interesting shot of a piece of laboratory glass, and you're seeing through the glass. And I'm watching it as it airs, and at the very last second, it finally, something clicks in my brain. And I said to my son, I said, did that piece of lab glass, did that have the Chem Glass logo on it? I had to go afterwards and check the episode and rewind, and find that spot and freeze frame it. Okay, so this is weird. Chem Glass is a small laboratory factory in my hometown of Vineland, New Jersey, that was right around the corner from where I lived and that I worked at for 7 years out of high school. I mentioned I worked in radio for years. I went to college and did radio after working for 7 years. I worked in that glass factory, Chem Glass. I recognized the logo on that glass. It was backwards on the screen. You could see it through the glass. You could see the logo backwards. I worked at that place for years, and that is the only place in the world that piece of glass could have been made, at a place I worked in my hometown, Vineland, New Jersey. Then, as the episode continues, Saul is on the phone with Francesca. She's giving him updates on things and how Huel's doing. And then, of course, she tells him that Kim called her and asked about him. After that phone call, Gene, he gets into his car and he leaves. And then he drives back to the payphone and he calls information and he asks for the number for Palm Coast Sprinklers in Titusville, Florida.
Hi, I need a number in Florida, Titusville. Palm Coast Sprinklers. It's on a road, it's named after a fish. Tarpon Road, right. Oh, well, can you put me through? I'll say again, how much? Okay.
Chris, Titusville, Florida is where I live. That is where I live today. That's not all, Chris.
What does it all mean? I'm thinking here, there's something going on. There has to be something going on.
Later in the episodes, we get the big scene of Walt and Jesse. We finally get, Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston, their big cameo in Better Call Saul that we've been waiting for 6 seasons. It happens. Now, in that scene, they're arguing with each other.
You gotta give us some gas.
I gave it the proper amount of gas.
I guess that's why we're moving now.
Look, it just was idling too long. It'll start.
You should have just let me drive, yo.
Look, nothing would be different in this moment except you panicking and flooding the engine.
Bullshit.
Fellas, I was enjoying the Laurel and Hardy vibe, but I'm not such a fan of the Bickersons. Now, can you get me back to my office? I got work to do if you want me to make some magic.
We just need to see.
And Saul tells them, hey, fellas, I like the, Laurel and Hardy routine, but the Bickersons I'm not so much a fan of. Okay. Are you familiar with the Bickersons, Chris?
Not really, no. No, not at all.
The Bickersons was an old-time radio show, go back in the 1940s. And I had a family member that was involved with the Bickersons, my dad's cousin. So my dad's cousin was a pitchman for Philip Morris cigarettes. There was a little bellhop guy who used to go, call for Philip Morris,
And now Philip Morris presents Francis Langford and Lou Parker, starring in Philip Rath's humorous creation, The Bickersons, produced and broadcast transcribed from Hollywood.
Call for Philip Morris! Call for Philip Morris!
This is back when, doctors used to do commercials for, cigarettes. This is, the good old days, Chris.
Wasn't it women were supposed to lose weight, smoke our cigarette, it'll help you lose weight, all that type of thing.
What was that, the Troy McClure, smoke yourself thin?
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. So I've got this family member who was on every single episode of the Bickersons, as basically the sponsor of that show, the main sponsor of that show. And when I was growing up, we had records and cassettes of the Bickersons in our house, and a photo of this guy, my grandfather had a bar down in his basement, and a photo of him down there, because it was a big deal. It was the most famous guy in the family that, had been completely, even when I was a kid, nobody remembered, but it was a big deal in our house. So that's the third thing. All right. A little while later, there is a scene with Mike Ehrmantraut in Saul's office, and he's there to tell him he's found out Walter White's identity. And the point of the scene is, this is now where Mike is telling Saul, you don't want to deal with this guy. This is bad news. It's a moment we never saw in Breaking Bad, but it's this important, crossroads where Saul can go one direction or the other, and he decides to go with Walter White, and the rest is history. But there's this monologue where Mike starts preaching about how he wasted all his time and money on a Betamax machine in the 1980s.
Okay, I hear you. I got a feeling about this. This Heisenberg guy's got something. It's top of the line product. That's the buzz on the street, and I just think with the right management.
Years ago I bought a Betamax. Good product, top of the line. Experts said it was better than a VHS. Turned out to be a complete waste of time and money. Let it go.
Anyway, the only reason I bring this up is I am somewhat, especially in the last year, I've become somewhat of a Betamax enthusiast. Chris, I've been taping this entire season of Better Call Saul on Betamax for no good reason, just because I could. But my original Sony Betamax from 1985 that my dad bought when I was 4 years old still works. So all that to say, Mike was right. It was better. Now, the final moment in the episode that to me was just bizarre. Like, this is definitely not nearly as bizarre as the others, but was the song that they played at the montage at the end. It was Michael Nesmith, Mike Nesmith from the Monkees. It was his acoustic demo of the song Tapioca Tundra.
Reason, verse, some prose, a rhyme, lose themselves in other times, and waiting hopes cast silent spells that speak in clouded clues. It cannot be a part of me, for now it's part of you.
Beautiful song. I love that song. I'm a big Nes head, Chris. That's what Mike Nesmith fans call themselves. I am a big Michael Nesmith fan. And next to my television, as I was watching that, was my signed picture of Mike Nesmith hanging on the wall. Mike Nesmith staring back at me. Even as I say this, Chris, I'm wearing my Mike Nesmith t-shirt as we're talking right now, because I love Mike Nesmith. I saw him in concert a couple times, and it was just the perfect way to cap off an oddly personal episode with a rare acoustic recording of a Mike Nesmith song. So I guess my question is, I just want to know, to Peter Gould, Vince Gilligan, you guys watching me?
Yeah.
This feels suspicious.
They're sending you messages through the TV. Through your Betamax, they're sending you messages.
Oh, great. I'm like Charlie Manson.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing the episodes backwards now, trying to figure out, what does it all mean? What does it mean?
In any of the post-show interviews with them, you're going to be like, I know they're telling me something. I know it. That could be your life now. That could be a way to go. But this is your own path, right? Maybe I'm Mike. I'm Mike sitting here right now saying, you got to let it go. This is what you're going to do. You're going to move on with your life. You're going to watch other TV shows. You're going to tape them to Betamax, and you're not going to see hidden messages from Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan.
You're going to tape over Better Call Saul.
None of this happened. There you go. But anyway, hey, Peter Gould, Vince Gilligan, if you're listening, what are you trying to tell Joe? What are you doing here, buddy? Well, thanks for sharing that, Joe. And maybe some of our fans can piece it together, and we can all figure out what's going on in these parallel universes. But right now, we want to get to our conversation with Peter Diseth. Well, Peter, we brought some. This is a party podcast, so we brought some things. We brought some.
Nice.
I'm gonna pop that open. Yeah, so we wanted to commemorate your episode, your tenure on Better Call Saul, with what Bill Oakley would most be prone to choose on a normal day. A normal
That's
day
right.
at the courthouse. So is this it? Is it Fritos?
Yeah.
That's his choice.
Yeah. When he can, he gets the Fritos, the chili cheese.
Okay.
And I have good news for Kim Wexler.
Oh, yeah?
Now, this is in some bizarre twist of fate. I live in Titusville, Florida.
That's right.
Yes. So we're like right now, we have 2/3 of the finale covered. I'm in Titusville. You're in Albuquerque. We should have sent Chris to Omaha, and it would have been perfect.
Jimmy's from Chicago, and I used to live there. So
there you go.
There you go. The circle is complete.
But I yesterday I went over to the Titusville, Florida Winn-Dixie, which is where they got the Miracle Whip because they were out of Duke's, and I'm pleased to say Duke's is back in stock. It was a BOGO too, and a big display, Duke's mayo, and I'm gonna dip my chili cheese Fritos in Duke's mayo.
Wow.
Floridians will be pleased to know that Duke's is back, baby.
And I have one more thing. I cannot confirm or deny if this is actually Cinnabon, but this is a cinnamon roll. I brought my knife and fork as well. So.
Oh man, that I don't have upstairs.
Yeah.
I wish.
The thing is, I live in Peoria, Illinois, and we don't have a Cinnabon here. So be it.
Really?
I had to drive a half hour to a truck stop to get one, but I have it.
Worth it.
Okay. Well, we're so glad that you can join us today. Have you been on a kind of a big, it seems like you've been busy since the finale. Is that true?
In what way?
Oh, I don't know. Just, I listened to part of your interview with David Chen, who I actually have listened to his podcast a lot of times. Things like that. And you had an event over the weekend, maybe a signing or something like that. Or
yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I've been lucky enough to be able to talk to some folks and to meet with fans of the show. And I've got a few more interviews in the works. So yeah, it's fun. I'm so happy to finally be able to talk about it.
There you go.
Like I wasn't even able to mention that I was a witness to the finale, let alone that, Bill had such a prominent part.
Which I'd like to point out, yes, you were holding out on us, like big time.
It was, I did. Everybody.
But I told Chris, I said, Chris, I think he's going to be back on. And it was something you said. You said
oh, no.
that you knew about Howard Hamlin's fate. You said you didn't know what happened, but you knew, that his character died. And I thought, well, the only way for him to have known that is he's got to be back in some kind of plot where that's involved. So I said, I think we're going to see him again.
Nuts. However, I will say that I could have been referring to the American Greed little spoof that we did, because that was filmed in April.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Fair enough. And I will say, I was not prepared for how crucial of a part you had in the finale. I mean, wow, man.
Yeah, Bill was there quite a bit.
I mean, let's start there. Like, how did that happen? How did you find out? What was your reaction?
God, I was talking with somebody the other day about I'm so muddled with this timeline. It was like a year ago. We were filming more than a year ago. Not this particular scene, but our episode. So I'll try to be brief. This is how I remember. This is how it went for me. Before season 6 started filming, I got an email from my agent, like usual, saying, Better Call Saul wants to check your availability for episodes, whatever it was, episode 4 in whatever day. So that's how I find out that I'm going to be a part of the show every season, is my agent emailing me asking about my availability. Otherwise, it's just a surprise. So I was like, yeah, of course. So I go in and I have a costume fitting with Jennifer Bryan, who's absolutely incredible. And she's talking to me about just kind of hinting that I have, more to do this season than what I'm aware of. And she starts talking to me about my wardrobe and how it's going to be progressively get nicer and more Saulish as the season progresses, which is never flashy, but you can tell it definitely, the suits definitely fit me better and they just look nicer. So that was my first inkling that something was going to happen, and I had no idea. And then episode 11, that's when I'm on the bus bench, right?
Yes.
My picture. I had no idea what I was doing. I knew I was going in for a photo shoot that day, but I didn't know what for. And I was hoping that it was photos for like family photos, like we were going to see the inside of Bill's house. But they told me on the day that it was for an advertisement. I've opened my own practice. I've become a defense attorney. And that's the first I learned about that, was on set that day. And then, I guess it was on that day. I talked to Tom Schnauz, who stopped in to say hi while we were taking photos. And he was in between scenes filming. And he was telling me, you ready for the finale? It's going to be, you're going to have a lot to do. And I'm like, what? What am I doing? What's happening? And then I find out from my agent, how many days I'm working. And that makes me think, oh, okay, it's pretty big.
Question, what's a normal day for you? Is it like a 1 day, 3 days? And then how many days were you on for the finale, shooting?
Yeah, for the finale, I was on altogether probably 2.5 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
All smushed together. Yeah, usually 1 or 2 days. Most of the scenes throughout the series were done in 1 day. One of them, I had to come back and do a reshoot for part of it. And then in season 3, Sunk Costs, I was in 2 different scenes. And so we filmed those on different days. But usually it's just one day. So this was a big change.
So obviously this is the series finale. This is a particularly important episode, arguably the most important of the entire series. How did it differ from the other episodes you've done, just security-wise?
You know what? This show has been on lockdown since day 1. So honestly, I didn't notice much of a change, particularly just from my point of view, because at that point I sort of, had a relationship with everybody. So it wasn't like I wasn't being treated with suspicion like maybe I was in the first couple of seasons. It's actually funny because I think we talked about this before, but in previous seasons, when I would get my script, my scenes, it would just be my scene and then everything else blacked out for, I guess, security reasons. And that happened again this time. But the first scene we filmed was the airplane scene. And I was like, that's fine. Like, you can just give me what you think I need. That's fine. But when I got it, I was like, I literally don't know what I'm talking about. Like, I have no context for this scene. So I was I approached very warily and asked the producers, or asked my agent to ask the producers, I was like, I totally understand if it's not possible, but I was wondering if I could just get a little bit more context. I'm sure they don't want to send me the full script, but maybe somebody could just call me and tell me what's happening, or I could read it and then burn it, or, just something. And then they were like, oh, yeah, sure, here's the whole script, which makes me feel like I could have asked for that in years previous, and it would have not have been a big deal. But yeah, the security was tight, as it has been. So, I mean, this is huge. You were in scenes with Saul and Marie. Yeah. Betsy Brandt. You had, they're talking about Walter White and Jesse. Have you ever felt more a part of the Breaking Bad universe as you do right now? I mean, Walter White was in between 2 of your scenes. There's a scene with Walt. It was wild.
You could feel his presence.
Yeah, well, no, because I didn't even know that scene was in the episode. That wasn't in the script.
Oh, wow.
Like, that was so secret. But when I realized he was going to be in the finale, which makes sense, of course, but when I realized it was after I saw episode 12, the penultimate episode, because we all know that Walt and Jesse are going to have a scene, Jesse's going to have a scene, and Walt's going to have a scene. And Walt hadn't had a scene yet, and it was finale time. And I'm like, but he's not in this episode. How's that going to work? So that was a secret. I had no idea. That was really cool. No, yeah, I mean, geez Louise. Betsy Brandt is right there. Special Agent in Charge Ramey is right there from Breaking Bad days. It was wild. It was, it just felt like part of history. And the more I get removed from the actual work of it to looking back on it, the further away I get, the crazier it seems. Like on the day, it was like the job, we're doing the job, we're working. And now it's just like, what happened? What was that?
That Walter White scene, that was the one I was worried about. I thought, that could be the most dangerous, to feel just like, like they're trying to squeeze some fan service in. Uh-huh. It was one of my favorite scenes of the episode because of how, people were talking in previous weeks, especially as the finale was growing closer and closer, this whole thing of, oh, well, we're seeing, Jimmy, Saul, he's turning into Walter White. And I kept saying, no, he's not Walter White. Yeah. Jimmy's a bad dude, but he's not Walter White. That scene, that little conversation that they had there, I think it just showed so perfectly why, in the end, Jimmy was, obviously, in the end, he was not Walter White. But the episode that they chose to flash back into was probably Walt at his low point in his sort of descent into madness. Yeah. And, when you look at, like, Ozymandias had just happened, and Hank had, just been killed. And when faced with regret, Walt is still looking at himself and his poor career choices. And
when I was a graduate student, I started a company with some... At the time, I thought they were my friends. Our goal was to commercialize discoveries that I had made. And at a certain point, I stepped away. I thought I was doing the gentlemanly thing. But little did I understand that they were artfully maneuvering me into leaving my own creation. And had I stayed, I would wouldn't be down here with you.
In the end, when Jimmy does finally, when Saul reclaims Jimmy as his identity and he does put himself on the line, it's kind of two things. One, I mean, yeah, like Walter White would have never done that. Walt was all about self-preservation.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been satisfied with 7.5 years. He would have kept fighting for who knows what. Yeah.
He would have got that ice cream. There's no doubt.
He doesn't talk about it, but there is that very brief moment before he talks about his regrets with gray matter when he looks at that watch, which always makes me think that his real regret is his role in what has become of Jesse, because that was the watch that Jesse gave him for his 51st birthday or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So I think there's a lot more going on inside, but you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%.
So they did some other stuff, some like promotional stuff with you this season too. Bill Oakley, I feel like Bill Oakley has been a bigger presence, even in episodes you've not, in this season premiere, there was the, Oakley, that dick, scene where they're having dinner and talking about you.
My guy ends up with the public defender. Rich kid's family brings in a top dollar defense from out of state, if you can believe it, Denver. And they're trying to dump the whole thing on my guy. It was my client's idea. He was forcing the rich kid into it, the whole deal. Oakley's going for aggravated robbery and assault.
Oakley, that dick.
Yeah.
But your kid was never even inside the store.
And as far as I know, is that the first time you were ever mentioned in a scene where you weren't present?
That's a good question. I want to say that there was one more, but I might be making that up. I know there was one later with the phone call with Francesca.
Yeah. And of course, the bench.
Yeah. No, that might have been it.
Well, let's talk about that bench, because I went to the website, I called the number. Did they involve you in all that? Because if people don't know, if you called the number, you left a message, an answering machine message.
Yeah, how cool is that? Yeah, when we were filming way back in the beginning, they talked to me about it in the beginning of season 6. They asked me if it was okay, which is unnecessary, but very nice. They're very thoughtful, the producers and the directors and everyone in charge. They want to make sure that you don't feel like you have to do something extra, like with that and the phone call and all that jazz, and the American Greed even. They're just very thoughtful about it. So yeah, we talked about it, and they said, is it okay if we do this website, and then we'll take some photos, while you're filming, probably while you're filming the finale. And so that's what we did in between scenes at the courthouse, and during the finale, we took the pictures that show up on the website. And then the picture on the bus bench was actually a work day for me on episode 611. I went into the Albuquerque studios and we took pictures for an hour. And then the voicemail was not too long ago. It was maybe like in May or June. Jen Carroll, executive producer, called me and asked if I wouldn't mind doing it. And I just recorded it on my phone here at home upstairs. I did it like 3 times and I sent it to them and they cut it together.
Thank you for contacting the law offices of William Oakley and Associates. I'm William Oakley. You can call me Bill. And I understand that every criminal charge, no matter how petty, must be handled with the utmost care. Having served as an Albuquerque deputy district attorney for over a decade, I'm uniquely qualified to defend my clients against a wide range of prosecutorial tactics. I have a proven track record with hundreds of wins in cases spanning DWIs, personal injury, assault, theft, and more. At the tone, please leave your information and a brief description of your charges, and I will call you back within 24 hours. Remember, trust experience. Trust Oakley. I look forward to serving your legal needs.
Yeah, what a blast. That stuff is so cool. I love that stuff. All the, the trainee videos that they put online, and then the animated shorts and the film school that they had this time, all that stuff. I love it. I love it. Walt's, website back during Breaking Bad that Finn made for him.
Well, there's the video that they released last week of Saul Goodman, where they used your head superimposed onto a baby crying into a bowl of cereal. Were you given a heads up on that one?
No.
Hey, it's Better Call Saul.
You bet it is. If you know anything about me, then you know I'm not shy about the slates I've wiped clean, the juries I've unhung, the prosecutors whose tears salt my Wheaties.
No, not for that, or for or for the animated stuff. That was all a surprise. All surprise. But funnily enough, the one you're talking about with my head on the baby and the crying, the graphic artist who made that, I don't think he made the whole video, but made that bit of it, sent me a message to apologize after the fact and said he hoped that I enjoyed it. But I was like, oh, that was hilarious. It's great.
Yeah, I have a question about that because
yeah,
one thing I'm particularly interested in is kind of like, the best way to describe it is old man humor, or humor that makes fun of us as men. So like, I love Tim and Eric show. Do you ever watch Tim and Eric show?
Yeah.
That show, they always seem to bring on the weirdest old guys, right? And so we're all in our, you know, like early 40s or whatever. So like we're in between. We're in between our young days and like our old man phase. But by the way, I see this a lot in the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul universe, just kind of like poking fun at old manness or just the ways that men can look. And so how does it feel being a part of that kind of humor? Because to me, it was hilarious. And at the same time, it's like, oh, it's, if that was my head, I wonder how I would feel.
No, I love it. I think it's hysterical. It's right up my alley. I love the dry, sarcastic, self-deprecating humor. So no, I'm very, very honored to play a small part in that.
We know we finally made it when they're making fun of us in that kind of way, right? Is that kind of...
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's an honor. It's so much fun. Yeah.
This is why Chris and I, though, would make terrible actors, because I'm a fairly husky guy, and I always have that thought every time you see like, you know, an overweight actor and in the script they're called like a fatty or something, like my heart always breaks for the actor.
Yeah, I really don't like that at all in scripts, or the, you know, the sexy girl or the ugly whoever. Like it feels lazy to me. I don't think it's necessary. But yeah. I hear you. No, I tell you what, I have come to terms that I'm an odd looking fella. And TV and film is how I've done that. A very different image of how I look, because we look at ourselves in the mirror, right? And we're face on and we're opposite. And so we have a very definitive idea of how we look, and then we see how other people see us. It's a head spinner, but I'm happy with it.
That's great. That leads me to maybe a question about Bill Oakley.
Sure.
My impression of him, and then in relation to Saul Goodman, is he's a nervous guy. He's lacking confidence. And then when he gets into Saul's presence, Saul can find a way to, you know, push the right buttons or manipulate him. Now, it's interesting to note how in your final scenes, like the scene where you confront him about Lalo, you know, you finally are getting like, no, hey man, this is not right what you're doing. And then I'm still trying to ponder what happened in between you and the final scenes. Like, was he playing you? Were you being strong? Was Bill Oakley being strong? What do you make of your character and his confidence, his relationship with Saul over the years?
Yeah, sure. So in my view, a lot of it's open to interpretation, which I appreciate. I think is great. But to me, Bill and Jimmy or Saul have always had this sort of give and take relationship over the years. It's been kind of a power struggle, but it's been kind of a game, right? It's like the guy or gal at work or whoever at work that you rib about whatever. So it was always about like who's on top in the scenes throughout the years, and whoever was on top would punch down, and you know, it was a game, but. By the time the sixth season starts, when it becomes fairly common knowledge that Saul has joined forces in a way with the cartel, the game is over. Like that crosses a line for Bill. It's like, wait a minute, I thought I knew what we were, but this is so far beyond the pale that I'm done with it. Like I can't anymore, which I thought was great. I feel like every time we saw them together, you saw a new sort of angle, a new facet of their relationship. And that was the most, one of the most like genuine moments, which I thought was fantastic on the page and so much fun to play. Now, once Saul Goodman becomes a fugitive and runs off to Omaha, a vacuum opens up and Bill decides that he's going to take this opportunity to fill it, to take Saul's space in the legal world of Albuquerque, become a defense attorney, maybe pick up some of his clients in a classier way. I think he feels like he can do it better, more respectably. But there are little clues in that last episode that it's not really going so great. First of all, because he does, in fact, take Saul up on the job offer, but also, you know, there's a shot of his car and there's a little piece falling off of his car. There's something that you'll never see, but I wore the same shoes that I wore 10 years ago, 6 years ago. It's the same shoes. One of the laces is broken, so I got to make a really teeny tiny bow on it, and it's kind of frayed. I don't think you ever see that. There was a shot of us walking down the hallway, going to the negotiation scene. It's very brief, but when we were shooting it, part of it was like the shoes. So you saw everybody's shoes, including mine. So he's not doing great.
The thing I picked up on was that Bill answered his own phone like Jimmy did in early seasons.
Law offices of James McGill, how may I direct your call? Yes, Mrs. Kettleman, so good of you to return. Actually, I don't have Mr. McGill at the moment, but I know he... Oh, splendid. Unfortunately, our offices are being painted and the fumes are quite horrid. Could he meet you and your husband at, say, Loyola's Cafe on Central? 4 o'clock it shall be. Cheers.
Yeah.
Except at least you answered it as yourself.
I almost didn't.
Really?
When I first read the script, you know, my mind immediately went there to like pretend to be somebody else, but Bill is not Jimmy. You know, it felt cheap, and I'm sure that Peter Gould, who directed it, would have said, no, let's not do that. But that was my first thought, was to do that. But no, yeah, that's sort of his illustrates him trying to be, I don't know, a better version, a more respectable version, I guess.
William Oakley and Associates. Trust experience, trust Oakley. Bill Oakley speaking.
Trust experience, trust Oakley. I like that. It's catchy. You know who this is, right?
Saul?
You got it, buddy.
The last we saw you two together, Bill kind of put Jimmy in his place.
Mm-hmm.
And then we fast forward, and this is years in the future.
Yeah.
Did something in your mind, does something have to happen in those few years for Bill to take that case? I mean, has he just become used to Saul? Has he learned to tolerate Saul Goodman in some way? Or was it like just for his career? What do you think?
I think it's a number of reasons. Number one, I think it's for his career. Like, you know, at that point, you know, if anybody's going to get out of this, it's going to be Saul Goodman. He's going to have an idea because he's such a worm, such a squirrel. He can always find his way out. And that the fact that maybe Bill isn't, you know, maybe just started his practice recently, so he's still trying to grow it. And this is a nationwide case. Like, they'll have eyes across the country, if not the world. I think in the world, it would be a very famous case. Like you know, so it would bring a lot of attention. It would bring his name into it. And I think the struggle there is like, will it bring his name into it in a good way or not? But I think just having his name associated with the trial or the hearing would be a big boost for business for Bill. So I think it's a compromise he makes with himself, like maybe not being so much of a good guy in this instance, but giving me the opportunity to maybe grow my business and be a better guy later. I guess it doesn't turn out well. And Bill, yeah, he's strung along. He doesn't know.
86 years.
To be fair, that is still down from life plus 190 years. Also, listen, I think for a while after the trial, it'll be a good like punchline that Bill, you know, lost his client, went from 7.5 to 86 years. Oh, Bill. But, you know, anyone who knows anything about the case will see that it had nothing to do with Bill. Right? It was Saul. He blew it up. So I don't think it will negatively impact Bill's career all that much in the end. In fact, I think it would probably be positive, just because his name will be more recognizable.
Will Bill take the appeal?
There you go. There you go.
Hey, can I get your opinion on Jimmy and Kim.
Yeah.
This is just throwing this out there, right? You don't, I imagine you have no idea. You know, when Jimmy and Kim split up, it's like Kim has realized this is so detrimental to the both of us. And the show ends on this beautifully hopeful scene because, you know, the romantics, those of us that are romantics, we're thinking, oh, they're finally getting back together. But we have to remember what brought them together all those times. So what's your take on that? What do you see Jimmy and Kim doing? Is she going to visit him over and over again? Is this bad? Is this so toxic they should never, ever get together again? What's your take on it?
Wow. Truthfully, I'm a romantic too, but truthfully, I think that was the last time that they ever see each other.
Okay.
I think that was goodbye. Or Kim could open her own practice. Bill can come work for her, and then they can like visit Jimmy in prison and bring him all the tough cases, and he can like a blacklist type situation. I think that's what'll happen.
That'll turn out well.
Spin-off.
My theory is that Jesse Pinkman is going to get busted in Alaska, extradited back to New Mexico, put in the same prison as Saul, and they will plan a breakout together.
There you go. You can call it Prison Break.
Yeah, yeah, right. Now, see, my theory was they all end up in Alaska together, and then they form like the new spinoff is like a Newhart, you know, small town quaint sitcom where they just all have a happy little time up there in Alaska together.
They deserve it, man. Yeah. Let these people relax a bit.
Exactly.
Please. What a mess.
Let me say this about the finale, and we're gonna talk about finales at the end of the episode. I think one thing that I'm reflecting on with the arc of the last few episodes of the season of the whole show, it's the pressure of what's going to happen next, right? You know, and so like we're sitting here watching, and as fans, we're kind of thinking, oh, I hope they figure out the puzzle correctly. What I particularly love about the last few episodes, and I told Joe this last week, my first reaction was, that was a poetic finale. Poetic, I use that word. I was kind of relieved, to be honest, that it was less about the plot and it was more about just continuing to understand the characters. Yeah. And I just found that actually helped me to relax a little. And I was just like, I don't really care what happens, because every scene, especially in the finale, was just like, oh, I understand more. And what do you think about that in terms of how plots come together, TV shows come together, and how, any reflections on that regarding the series finale?
Yeah. Finales are hard.
Very hard.
I think the trap that some of them fall into is just trying to wrap up everything in tiny little pretty bows, like wrap up relationships, whatever plot ends, like leave no question unanswered, and then that's it. So it ends up not really feeling like the show, but more like, I don't know, like some sort of aftermath. So the challenge is to end the story by telling the story, like let new things happen, let new relationships develop or dissolve, and like let it be part of the story, and then have the ending. So I thought that Saul did a really great job of that, of giving us something new, but also wrapping it up and leaving a lot of stuff open. What's going to happen with Kim, with Jimmy, with anybody. The story about a man trying to be good, I guess, like trying to break good or something, I don't know, that gets wrapped up. He finally takes responsibility for his actions and tells the truth and gets what's coming to him. No, I thought it was tremendous, the way that, yeah, a lot of things are left open, not necessarily for to leave it open for the next series or a spin-off or a movie or whatever. Just leave it open for the audience to have their own opinion on it. One of the things I love the most about this show, and Breaking Bad too, is how the creators, the filmmakers, treat the audience as a collaborator, as a storyteller. Like they'll hold on Kim or on Banks, and they're not doing anything. You're just looking at their face. But with all the context that we're given, we, the audience, are able to continue the story. We know what they're thinking. We can provide their monologue. And they do that a lot. They trust the audience to figure things out or to have fun and make stuff up themselves. And I think there's a lot of that in here, but not in a way that feels cheap or that feels like, they're trying to get away with something. It feels like we're part of the story, which I love.
The way they resolved what Jimmy did to Chuck was beautiful. I'll be honest, I really didn't expect it. I had just I never expected that character to own what he did to his brother.
Yeah.
And to own it the way he did, when he did, and when Bill tells him it wasn't even a crime, and he says, yeah, it was. And to me, the single greatest shot of the entire episode was that exit sign. And you're in the frame. I mean, I got chills.
Yeah.
I mean, like real chills.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Just from a production standpoint, did you know they were doing that?
Yeah, they had to set up a camera way up there, and there was somebody like holding the exit sign, or it was on a clamp or something. So yeah, we knew it was happening.
I want to go back a few episodes though. You had one other scene in the second half of the season, very brief in the montage. I think it was 609 Fun and Games.
Mm-hmm.
Just seen briefly at the coffee machine with Kim Wexler. When you film something like that as part of a montage, is it an actual scene that you're filming that is just, so there was dialogue? What was happening there?
Yeah, there was literal, like, we got pages of script. They call it, it's called pocket dialogue, which are lines that are not in the script, but that are written by the writer for us to say, just so, it looks like we're doing something real and not just, saying rutabaga, rutabaga, rutabaga to each other. So the scene was that I was, getting coffee, and then Kim comes up and says, Bill, I need that Hafner file. I've asked you 3 times. And he's like, oh yeah, wait, just a sec. He opens it up, Hafner. And then he pulls out the file and gives it to her. So she's just after him for some paperwork. But yeah, no, there was actual lines there that we had. And there was a cool thing. They didn't really use it. And maybe it was just too much, but when we shot it, the camera's coming in to Kim and I open my briefcase, and then when I do, the camera's meant to go all the way through the briefcase and then to the coffee behind me to watch it come down. And that took it was technically very difficult, the timing of it. So maybe they just never got it, and that's why it kind of just fades to the coffee instead of going through. But because of that, I had my suitcase that was all decked out with files, and there was 2 bags of chili cheese Fritos in there that the props people put in. So it was this whole big thing. But it turned out that, it's just this little moment in the montage. But yes, to answer your question, every single time that you see people talking, characters, not necessarily background artists, but every time you see characters talking, even if you can't hear them, they have lines written for them. Bob is the exception in only a couple of places. In the first season, there's a montage where he's being big in a courtroom, and it's a bunch of different trials it's intercutting from. And I think he did a lot of just improv on that day. But yeah, otherwise we got scripts. We're told what to say. Thank God. Oh no, there's one time. There is. I have one ad lib in the entire series, and it drove me batty. I was so anxious about it, and it's at my very last lines in the series, in the episode, when he says the name's McGill, Jimmy McGill, and then the prosecutor jumps up and starts talking, and then I take a moment, and then I jump up and start talking about, Your Honor, this is merely one point of view in a complex narrative.
Your Honor, in view of the defendant's
we'd like to request a
confession, the government withdraws its sentencing recommendation and urges this court to impose the statutory maximum.
That was not a confession. It was
Furthermore,
merely
Your Honor, a second additional hearing is required in order to assess the additional claims.
None of that was written. We just had to like jump up and argue. I think it was like, Your Honor, ... Your Honor, ... and then we would just go off. So
that is so funny though, because I noticed that scene. I went back and watched it again this weekend, and that particular scene, I was trying to listen to what you were saying because you're just yelling over top of each other.
She was so good. Oh my gosh. I'm terrible. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's such a wonderful human being. But the actor who was the prosecutor, the assistant prosecutor who jumped up and she could just go and like nonstop for like minutes. And I was like, I don't know what to say. So I was like trying to jump in there, and then Rich Sickler, the first AD, would always at the end of each take would say, you know, who won the argument? Oh, she won that time. Oh, you got it that time.
Well, if it makes you feel better, you sounded exactly like Bill would have been arguing after having been completely sandbagged like he was.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know we got lots to get to, but I did want to say one more thing about that moment, because there's something there that I don't think anyone will ever see because it's so tiny and so short. It's like less than a second long. And I am not Ray Seahorn and able to tell the audience exactly what I'm thinking with a single second long look. But in my mind, there's a moment after he says, my name is Jimmy McGill. And Bill is just looking at him for 1 second. And while the prosecutor has already jumped up and started, he takes this moment. And I think it's the moment where he chooses to fight for Jimmy. It's because he's finally understood what has happened here today. And it wasn't personal against Bill. It was this jerkhole finally taking responsibility.
Mr. Goodman, sit down and stay seated.
The name's McGill. I'm James McGill.
So there's this 1 second where I listen to him, I look at him, and I make the decision, because I don't have to talk. I don't have to fight for him anymore. I could just sit there and let it all play out. But
we know that from the stairwell scene earlier in the season, really that's exactly what Bill wants Jimmy to do, is own this terrible stuff he's done.
Yeah, and he has more than necessary. He's talked about Howard. He's talked about Chuck.
Just at the worst possible time.
Yeah, it sucked. But that's that was for me as an actor. I used that moment to have Bill decide to choose to continue to fight for him.
We're going to get to our listener mailbag in a moment, but I have one last question for you about the finale. There was the scene where you guys are negotiating and Jimmy tries to play the Howard Hamlin card.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly shocked. He didn't know that Kim had spoken to them.
Yeah.
Is Bill as shocked? Does Bill not know that either in your mind? Because I was just wondering, is that something Bill neglected to tell Jimmy, or does he have no clue himself?
He didn't. I don't think he doesn't know, because he's not a member of the district attorney's office anymore, so he wouldn't have that. And I think that just happened in the timeline, so I don't think he would have had time to even like overhear it, like word on the street.
Gotcha.
So to me, Bill doesn't know. And then between then and the airplane, he's called some of his colleagues at the DA to find out the story, so that when Saul stops him going down the aisle of the airplane, he has more information at that point. I hope that makes logical sense story-wise. That's how I thought of it.
All right, Chris, you want to take some listener questions?
Yeah.
Let's dip into that mailbag.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day. Mailman, mailman, mail today. Reach right in and pull one out. Those letters. I love those letters. Let's find out what you've got to say.
Oh, boy.
Mailman, mail today.
Yeah. So here's our listener mailbag. Now, here's what we're thinking, almost kind of like a lightning round of questions, because there's a decent amount of them. And I know some of these you've gotten before, right? I think you've probably been asked this. Here's question number 1. Were you ever a fan of Breaking Bad before Better Call Saul? And if so, to what extent? This is from Dan Graw with a bunch of numbers after him. We assume Dan is a real person, who knows? But I know you've gotten this question before. Tell us about your prior experience.
Yeah, I was a fan of Breaking Bad. I hadn't finished it before I was cast, but I did finish it before we filmed. No, when we moved to Albuquerque, my wife and I, we'd been meaning to watch this show forever. And we got here, I think, during the 4th season or 5th season. So we started watching it on DVDs. Still have the DVDs somewhere. And we watched like an episode or 2 every night. And it was just not the best date night material. After a while, it just got very dark and harrowing. And we were like, this is so good, but I don't want to watch another one right now.
Right. Yeah.
So we like took a break and like watched something else, and then just never picked it back up, even though we enjoyed it. I mean, thought it was a fantastic show. And then I'd always meant to, and I got caught up in other shows, you know, like you do. And then all of a sudden it becomes like this big task. And you're like, oh, I don't remember where we were, so I got to go back to the beginning. So I will. But then when word got out that Better Call Saul was going to start filming here, I took that as an opportunity, as a sign to restart from the beginning, Breaking Bad. And then I had finished it by the time we started shooting. So it had all the context that Bill doesn't really need, but is nice. So yes, fan, absolutely.
All right, John Archuleta wants to know, you've kind of touched on this already, but I like the question. Why did Saul screw you? By coming clean, you lost the case, you've got nothing to brag about, and he didn't even get the original 30 years.
Yeah, no, he had to have somebody, because listen, he couldn't just represent himself, because he wouldn't be taken seriously. He wouldn't be taken seriously at the negotiation table, and the judge probably wouldn't let him talk so much in court. He had to have either somebody representing him or a co-counsel. That was just necessary in his mind. Otherwise, he just would have been seen as a clown. What he needed was somebody who would agree to be his co-counsel and who wouldn't get in the way and would basically do what he was told. And his first thought was Bill Oakley. So that's how I got wrapped up into it. I think by the end, Bill understands that it was not personal, that he was just being used as a tool. And I think by the very end, I think he understands that and is okay with that, as much as it sucked.
Okay, Julian DePolo wants to know, what does your character's future look like? And also asks, you know, after the Better Call Saul finale and him witnessing Saul's shenanigans, this kind of relates to the previous question. Is he still going to take Saul's defense position? How does he feel about Saul after Better Call Saul? So what's your character's future? What does he feel about this guy after all these years?
I think he's glad that Saul has taken responsibility and come clean and has basically chosen to pay the time in jail, to spend 86 years instead of 7 years. I think he respects that. I think he also hopes that Saul will never, ever, ever call him again, that he'll never have to see or talk to him ever again, because it's just so unpredictable and it never ends well. But from afar, I think he's gained back some of the respect that he lost for James Morgan McGill. What happens to Bill? I don't know. He goes back to his practice for sure. I bet it grows. There's some name recognition there, I bet. It's not like turned him off on the law or anything, this experience. I don't know. I think he develops a successful, more respectable Saul Goodman type firm. Maybe more discerning about his clientele, maybe, depending on how he finances.
All right. Killers Play on Top would like to know, did you ever offer any feedback to the producers, directors? If so, how did they receive it?
Like tell them like this is how I think the character should be, or this is how I think the scene should go?
Yeah, or your opinion on something. Maybe something that felt right, or
no. No, I was always very happy with everything and just feeling very fortunate to be there. No, there were some times, I don't remember when, but I remember some scenes with Bob where we as a group, Bob and me and Peter, or Bob and me and the director or the writer, would chat about something that didn't sound right or that felt a little off, like tonally or character-wise. So we would have a discussion about it, but I would never like go up and say, I don't think this is quite right. I wrote this instead, or anything like that.
Never came barging in. All right, fellas, this is how we're going to do things today.
I know my character better than you. No. I was always very happy to collaborate and never demanding. I'm gonna have a Frito now.
There you go. All right. As you eat that Frito, something to think about here. Here's one of our deeper questions, maybe more obscure. This comes from the chiral theory, spelled chiral. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of the parallel universe theory that like every scene in Breaking Bad mirrors something in The Sopranos? Have you ever heard this fan theory? And if so, tell us everything that you know about it. I'm curious because when I read this question came in, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even know what to make of it. Have you ever heard this theory that somehow Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould mirrored things in The Sopranos?
Yeah, no, I saw like a tweet about it a few days ago. So like a headline. I haven't read about it or know any of the details. Because listen, I'm one of the few people in the world who actually hasn't seen The Sopranos.
Me either. Actually, Joe has.
I've seen various clips of it, but I've never watched the whole thing. Or Mad Men.
Oh, I've seen Mad Men, but yes, I'm not a Sopranos guy, so I'm totally ignorant too. Yeah,
I'm from Jersey. It's required viewing.
I totally understand. No, so I don't know. I've heard about it, but only about as much as what you've just told me. That's all I know. But no, it's interesting. I know for a fact that it's not intentional on Peter and Vince's part, but it's really cool how that happens sometimes. How some stories mirror each other, either at the same time or across the years. It's cool. No, I'll look into it. Chiral.
Josie DeMarco wants to know, and this is funny because Chris, I think we had a conversation about this in the last Better Call Saul episode we did. If there were to be a theme park ride based on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, based on that universe, how would it be designed?
Oh my God, I don't know. How would you distill it down into one of anything?
Chris had said that it would have to start with you being in a trunk taken out to the desert.
Oh yeah.
But then when you get out to the desert, the camper's van is there, and they teach you how to make meth, and it's going to be a great fan experience.
There you go. No, that's perfect. How can you top that? No, yeah.
And since it is a theme park, it's just going to be those little candy crystal things. It'll actually just be the candy rock crystals. It's not actual, rock candy, but blue, right? Only blue,
Yeah, they make that here.
With an animatronic Hector.
I love it. I'll be the first on the ride. That's amazing.
Yeah, anything else to add to the theme park ride of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad? Maybe you could dress up as a lawyer and have a fun, mock trial.
Yeah, I could pop like a Pirates of the Caribbean type thing where it's just pops out. It's just eating a Frito or banging on the vending machine or I think throughout the ride there's got to be at least 3 vending machines where Bill is just progressively getting more desperate and sad.
See, I see Bill doing the video that, as you're waiting in the queue, you come on the screen.
Oh yeah. Thanks for waiting in line.
He should be the host throughout, on all the video screens. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Now, this is obviously not an amusement park ride, but I mean, Albuquerque has statues now, Breaking Bad statues. Have you been there yet?
I know. How cool is that? No, I haven't. I think it's at the convention center. But no, I had no idea that was even happening. Even my neighbors or other people not associated with the show or the production at all, they all knew it was coming. I don't know how I missed it, but no, I saw pictures the next day. I haven't been down there yet, but I look forward to it. Take some photos with the guys. Yeah, it's really cool. I know that some people are being ridiculous and saying that it glorifies meth dealers, when in fact, that show, those characters and the production itself have done more for this city than I don't know what. Breaking Bad, ushered in this whole era of film and television industry here, and it's as citizens are very grateful to Vince and the team and everybody for doing that show here, because it's been life-changing for so many folks here. So that's what I see the statue as, not honoring meth dealers. Give me a break. Anyway,
last question from what happens to be my favorite Twitter handle name of the day, Scotch Square Sausage.
There you go.
Scotch Square Sausage, whatever that means. They know who they are and they know what they're about. They asked this question: was the coffee from the vending machine good?
Not drinkable.
All right, fair enough.
No, you couldn't drink it at all.
No, literally not coffee.
It wasn't even coffee.
No. I'm talking about the close-up shots of the coffee coming in. No, that was it was a mixture. Rob House of the special effects team, he's posted some stuff on Twitter, some threads about the coffee machine and what they did with it. Oh gosh, and his Twitter handle is something totally different, and it escapes me, but I'm going to find it. But it's very cool to check out. Now, the other scene in season 3, when I do have the chips and the coffee, that was real, and that just tasted like it was just coffee. It wasn't anything. But yeah, some of it was not literally not drinkable, and the others was just whatever, Folgers or whatever. But the special effects team at the end of shooting, they gifted me with this bag of really nice like Kona Peaberry coffee as an apology for denying me coffee all the times at the vending machine throughout the years. It was very sweet. I love it.
Well, thanks to all our fans, and this wraps up the mailbag segment.
Another letter from our listener,
All right, so to close out the show today, Peter, we wanted to take on an idea that you brought to us, which we thought was just really cool, and you're playing along with, you know, the podcast and the things we like to talk about here.
Yeah.
The subject in general is show finales, right? You know, how does a show wrap up, and is it worthy? You know, is it worthy of the show that preceded it? And so we're each gonna kind of hop around here, play tag, and share our own memories of like great finales, or maybe, I don't know, maybe not great finales. We'll see what comes out of this. Peter, do you want to go first? What pops into mind? Are you going to share something from your youth or something more recent? What are you thinking?
I was thinking of more like 80s and 90s, so more of like youth, only because I was thinking of you know, the nostalgia of it. There was a period of time where it seemed like the most profound finale was "It's all been a dream" sort of a retcon of an entire series. And I'm glad we've sort of shied away from that. Newhart and
Lost, like Lost.
No.
Well, it wasn't a dream. That was that'll take us an hour to unpack the Lost.
Yeah,
finale.
I will say that I love the finale, and I did too. I have specific ideas, but we don't need to get into that. No, there was another one. Was it 30 something, or the kid with it was the snow globe, and
that was St. Elsewhere.
St. Elsewhere. Thank you. That's in my brain.
I don't understand this autism thing, Pop. Here's my son. I talk to him. I don't even know if he can hear me. He sits there all day long in his own world, staring at that toy. What's he thinking about? All right, come on, son. Let's go wash our hands, all right? It's all right.
Yeah, that was another one where it was like all a dream.
Did anybody here watch the Newhart finale when it aired?
Not when it aired, but I've seen it. I've seen it a few times by now.
I watched it when it aired. I'll tell you the funniest thing too. I used to watch Newhart every week. I was really young, but with my parents.
Yeah.
And I can remember, you know, the big, you know, reveal where Dr. Bob Hartley's in bed with, you know, Suzanne Plachette. And of course, you know, it's a flashback to, you know, it all happened in the Bob Newhart show.
Right.
Well, I was an innkeeper in this crazy little town in Vermont.
I'm happy for you.
Good night. Nothing made sense in this place. I mean, the maid was an heiress. Her husband talked in alliteration. The handyman kept missing the point of things. And then there were these 3 woodsmen, but only one of them talked.
That settles it. No more Japanese food before you go to bed.
When it aired, I had never seen an episode or ever heard of the Bob Newhart show. I had no idea what was going on.
You were confused.
No clue. And I remember...
That was not made for you in mind.
I remember my parents, like, you know, going crazy, just, you know, laughing. And afterward, my dad having to explain to me what that was all about. But that's my memory of it, is just not getting it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think by the time I watched it, I understood like what it was. I think I got it, but yeah, no, I wouldn't have if I had watched it live.
So is there one that's like, go ahead. Yeah. What's a favorite of yours?
One of my favorites, which is also one of the most tragic, is the Quantum Leap finale.
Next, it's the leap you've been waiting for years. The final leap.
This is where it all started.
Now, all your questions will be answered.
You are the one who's been leaping me.
Come back one last time to see how it all ends.
I want to go home.
The Final Leap at its original time on NBC next.
That's on my list.
Yeah. I remember being, when I watched it live as it aired, I remember being a bit confused just because it got really heady there at the bar.
Why did you create Project Quantum Leap, Sam?
To travel in time.
Why did you want to travel through time?
Because I wanted to...
To make the world a better place?
Of course, to make the world a better place.
To put right what once went wrong?
Yes, but not one life at a time.
Oh, I got Mother Teresa here. Do you really think that all you've done is change a few lives?
Basically, yes.
Well, at the risk of overinflating your ego, Sam, you've done more. The lives you've touched others. And those lives, others. You've done a lot of good, Sam Beckett.
I've always called him God the bartender.
Yeah. The storyline of the last two episodes. But then when that final title card hit, just sobbing. It was incredible.
Yeah. Was that a big show for you?
Oh yeah, we loved it. Used to watch it, yeah, all the time. I still love it.
You know, it's funny. Chris and I are both big Quantum Leap fans.
Mm-hmm.
We're planning on this podcast to do a rewatch of the entire series.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Quantum Leap was one of the big shows for me growing up. And that finale was like, it was probably the first time a TV show left me heartbroken. I mean, like really heartbroken, because week after week, you're rooting for Sam. You know, the whole idea is, the whole concept of the show is he's trying to get home. And not only does he not get home in the finale, but yeah, that title card, they make a point of telling you, look, he never gets home.
Never.
And it's just like, I was like devastated.
How awful is that? He's like one of the best humans, like in the world. He's like this ideal human being, always striving to do good and helping all these people. And he deserved to get home, and he never did. How sad. I guess we should have known with a name like Samuel Beckett that was not going to have a happy ending.
Ah, that's good. That's good.
But
I like that. I never even thought about that. Oh my goodness. It's all absurd, right?
Yeah.
Joe, what about you?
Well, Quantum Leap was one of the big ones on my list. And that was because that show is one where I remember really bonding with my dad on that show. I don't think we hadn't started from the beginning. Somewhere like probably a couple seasons in, we started watching it week after week. And it just became that one show that we were, just kind of faithfully watching every week. And I got like emotionally invested into that show as a kid. The other one for me, like as far as finales go, that was, and probably still like one of the biggest of all time for me personally, was the Cheers finale.
Yeah, he was on the plane with
Diane.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Folks, this is your captain again. Sorry, but we're going to be delayed here on the tarmac for a bit. We're having a minor problem with our electrical system, and we'll need some time to check it out. By the way, Sam, you might want to take the advantage of this delay to reconsider what you're doing. Are you really in love with this woman, or are you trying to love her because you're afraid of ending up alone? Think about it.
Did you just hear that?
What?
What the captain said to me.
To you? He said they were having trouble with the electrical system. Why do you think he was talking to you personally?
Oh, boy.
It's funny. I started watching that show like 7 years old, watching Cheers. Like,
yeah, me too. I loved it.
Me too. Like,
it's just guys people sitting in a bar talking about stuff that I don't understand, and I loved it.
It was great, and I just, you know, I mean, I watched it and week after week, loved it. Well, you know, watched the reruns every night. So when the finale came, that was like a big deal for me. And I remember, you know, they did like a kind of like a retrospective with Bob Costas that night before the show,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like a, you know, really like big finale, like 90 minutes long or something. And then do you remember? This is very rare for me at that age. It's like 12. I stayed up late to watch The Tonight Show, Jay Leno.
Yeah.
When the cast was on at the bar in Boston, and they were just trashed out of their minds. And,
I've not seen that.
I'm sure you can find it. It's got to be on YouTube.
I gotta check that out.
Jay, we'd like to say something to our friend Kirsty, who obviously didn't see the tape before she taped that. So go ahead.
You'd all like to say something to Kirsty? All right, Kirsty.
Wait.
Kirsty, you know, you are my best friend, but we all need to say this to you.
Yes.
You're stupid!
Stupid! Yes, these are some of the highest paid actors in television, ladies and gentlemen. But when we come back, we're gonna go out on the street again and talk to the crowd. We're gonna have a bit with the crowd on the street, and then we'll come back and we'll talk to you guys again. I know you probably want to relax and maybe have a drink or something.
I remember, like, you know, naive 12-year-old me just kind of like, why are they so goofy? Like, you know,
they're happy.
They were totally just slammed. And I remember it ended. My final memory of the finale of Cheers was that night. The whole cast out front of the bar with Gary Portnoy, who wrote the theme song, and they all drunk sang the theme song in front of the bar, and it was glorious.
Be glad there's one place in the world where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember that. And the other really big one, still, I think one of the most watched ever was the MASH finale. But that was just a little before my time. I would have been just a few years old when that aired. I've seen it now, but you know, I don't have any memory of that as it aired.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because that was one of those TV Hollywood stories told as we were growing up, which was MASH, the most watched finale of all time, or most watched television show of all time. Like you, completely missed it. I did see someone share the other day about MASH, which was, I don't know if this is the same for you, depending on the area of the country you lived in, but it was like, if MASH was on TV, it meant, hey, it's time to go to bed. Because for us, it was like always on at 10 o'clock, like on our local Fox station. And it was like, even into my teenage, that's when I started to watch MASH. When I was like in my teenage years, I was like, oh, there's something with this goofy show. And this is about some deep stuff. And hey, I think that Alan Alda is a good actor, you know, like, right? I don't even know if I have seen the finale of MASH, but I've seen tons of MASH episodes over the years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For a while there, it was on, I don't know what station, TBS or something, but it was like right after school. They'd have like 2 in a row on.
Okay.
They'd have like a MASH and a Andy Griffith show, and maybe it was like a Nickelodeon or something. I remember watching them like every day.
Yeah.
The MASH finale, that was a heavy finale.
There's something wrong with it. It stopped making noise. It just stopped. She killed it. She killed it. Oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't mean for her to kill it. I just wanted it to be quiet. It was a baby. She smothered her own baby. You son of a bitch. Why did you make me remember that?
You had to get it out in the open. Now we're halfway home.
Yeah. The whole last few seasons there, when Alan Alda got more say in content and stuff and started directing, yeah, it got real heavy. I had a lot of really important things to say.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, what about you?
Okay, so I have 2 that I want to share, but my first thing that I want to share kind of flips the whole premise on its head.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite finale is all the finales that I didn't see. And here's what I mean by that. Like Quantum Leap. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know where I was at. Totally missed it. Have never seen it to this day. And I think what's funny about that is if you grow up and if something is on at 9 p.m. on a Thursday and you happen to have a basketball game that night or something, what do? You know, like it's like, well, I guess I missed Quantum Leap.
Try to record it on the VCR if you got one, but
yeah, I could have timed it. I could have.
How many times did that ever work?
Exactly, right. So I think one of my experiences is missing everything. Like I think I might have seen like the MacGyver one or something like that when I was a little kid. I don't remember, but I think I might have seen MacGyver's finale.
Name's MacGyver. It's MacGyver's last episode, and we've saved the best for last.
You're my father.
Has MacGyver found his long-lost son?
Oh, man.
The pressure's on.
No!
MacGyver, the series finale, tonight.
I'm thinking about Star Trek, The Next Generation as the TV show.
Yeah, all good things.
Yeah.
I vividly remember, the beard. But yeah, there's a lot of it that I don't remember either.
The end of an incredible legend draws near.
I'm moving back and forth through time.
The past, the present, and the future are about to collide.
You're defenseless.
And the fate of all mankind depends on one man.
All hands brace for impact. Goodbye, Jean-Luc. All good things must come to an end.
On the spectacular 2-hour final episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I remember watching it that night. My mom was a huge fan.
Yeah. So anyway, just that fun phenomenon of you can't just log on to AMC Plus or whatever and find the finale. There it is. It's like, well, I guess it's gone now. Now, if I was good enough, maybe I'd catch it 5 years later on TBS or something like that, but it's just.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? And I'll say we spoiled the heck out of that Quantum Leap finale for you. But you know what? For me, you know what I always missed as a kid? It was always the first episode. Like, I didn't see the first episode of Quantum Leap until I was like almost 30.
Yeah.
It was on streaming by the time I saw it. And I didn't realize that there's actually a pretty important part of the finale of Quantum Leap that connects back to the first episode that I had no idea as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, that show I used to watch in reruns all the time as a kid was, Bill Bixby, The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
And it was, again, that was another one that, like, for years I tried to catch the first episode, like, on TV and never caught it. And finally saw it on streaming. And it's like, we really take for granted how good we have it now with everything at our disposal, all the time. We didn't have any of that.
Yeah. No. We had to wait for syndication, and then they were never in order. Sometimes they would do like stretches of a show in order, and that would be exciting because you'd get the whole story, but mostly they were just jumping all over the place. Yeah.
You mentioned the VCR. It's funny. I recently, earlier this year, I pulled my childhood Sony Betamax out of storage. And that thing is 37, almost 38 years old, and it still works.
Oh my God.
I've been using it. I've been taping stuff on it. Actually, it works great. But I was digging through all these old tapes I had, and I found the Family Ties series finale I had taped. It aired. We still have the tape.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that show too.
Yeah. Growing Pains, those types of shows. Okay, so I have 2 shows finales. One I'm just curious about. I know, Joe, you haven't seen this. One I know we've all shared, I believe. Peter, did you ever watch the British show The Prisoner?
Where am I? In the village. What do you want? Information.
It's a question of your resignation.
Top secret.
State secret.
We want information.
Who brought me here?
Information.
Whose side are you on?
Information. You won't get it. By hook or by crook, we will.
He's seeing you.
The Prisoner. Sunday nights at 10, 7 Pacific on the Sci-Fi Channel.
You ever watch that show with Patrick McGoohan?
No. I've seen parts of it, but I haven't sat down and watched the whole thing, and I know I will love it. So I'm looking forward to that when I have that in the future. But no, I didn't.
No worries. Yeah, we'll hopefully talk about it on an upcoming episode sometime in the future because I want to introduce it to Joe. What's funny about The Prisoner is it has this great premise. It's a man who's been held captive in this village, and no one has names. Everyone's been given a number. It's all this question of, why am I here? You know, it's like this ongoing thriller mystery. Well, what happened with the show was like, it was too weird. Like, it was just too weird for British television. And they're like, hey guys, you know, they get the word, show's been canceled. And so what did they do? They scrambled together and put out one last finale. And it's just the most bizarre, like abstract. It's all about like this kind of symbolic interpretations. And so instead of the series wrapping up, it's more like, it's like a Samuel Beckett play, you know, where you're just like, I don't know what's happening.
That's great.
It's kind of one of those finales. If you love the show, you either love it or hate it or both or whatever, but we talk about it, that's for sure. Like, what does it mean? So I bring that up just kind of as a funny finale.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love it when they do that. I love when they swing for the fences at the end, especially when it's like they're being canceled. It's like, well, screw that. let's do whatever we want.
Yep.
I love it.
Okay, the second one, and for me, I think maybe this defines my childhood and teenage years, is the Seinfeld finale.
Yeah.
Because that's the one where I truly remember I was there for it, and it was like appointment television. I couldn't miss it.
Yeah, that was a big one.
I also knew the last season wasn't that great, and there was like something wrong with the quality. I didn't know at the time what it meant that Larry David was no longer writing for the show. You know, all these high hopes for this finale. And what's weird is, like, again, mixed feelings about the finale. I think I've looked back on that finale over the years and gone, oh, I get why they're doing this. I get why they're putting the main characters on trial, you know?
Yeah, we're being terrible people.
But it didn't really hit me at the time. I was just like, what is going on here? But anyway, any thoughts on the Seinfeld finale?
Yeah, I love the show. I didn't like the finale at all when I saw it. And honestly, I haven't seen it since. But like you, yeah, I totally get it. I understand it. I understand the concept. After everything they've done, they're finally being held to account for being just the worst humans on the planet. But at the time, it just seemed too odd to me. And maybe I had been away from it for so long. So I think I took some years off watching it, and then I came back to it for the end. It just seemed like, for a show that was so focused on the mundane aspects of genuine real life, to like have this sort of very theatrical, fantastical trial at the end. It seemed odd. But I don't know. Maybe that was the logical step in the season, and I just missed it. But no, it was cool to. What I did like is the very end. I think, right? Is it the subway moment? They step off the subway and there's just like nothing to do, and then they just kind of all just walk away from each other.
Is that the last moment? Is that the last moment?
Is that the end, or was that just a promo?
That was okay. Because I watched it that night too, and I remember there was like I don't know if it was a half hour, hour long sort of recap of the series that aired right before
the Green Day song.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was how that ended, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So I remember seeing that, but I remember it was part of the episode or not. Okay, but I like that. It was like we don't have anything more to say. Like, I don't know. Just walked away from each other. It was great.
Says a lot that the best memory you have of it wasn't actually in the episode.
I know.
At all.
Hey, man, this is like 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
But they were in their prison cell, and they were just bantering and arguing like they always were.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
The final scene was Jerry doing stand-up for prisoners. And like, I think guys like threatening to shiv him or something. It was.
So what is the deal with the yard? I mean, when I was a kid, my mother wanted me to play in the yard. But of course, she didn't have to worry about my next-door neighbor, Tommy, sticking a shiv in my thigh. How about you? What are you in for?
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto. Don't steal any of my jokes.
You suck. I'm going to cut you.
Hey, I don't come down to where you work and knock the license plate out of your hand.
All right, Seinfeld, that's it. Let's go. Come on.
All right. Hey, you've been great. See you in the cafeteria.
Nice.
I was in denial. I tried to tell myself, it was good. It was good. It's great. You know, but deep down knowing it was a total letdown.
If you liked it, then that's fine.
No, it wasn't very good.
Okay. I don't want to feel like we're peer pressuring you into thinking that it was bad.
Oh, no. No, I've processed this a lot over the last 25 years. This is not today.
All you've been thinking about for 25 years.
I've worked this out in multiple therapy sessions.
Wake up in the morning, first thing you do is, okay, how do I feel about the Seinfeld finale today?
It was the same thing I did for about 2 days with Rise of Skywalker, and then I, then I just had to accept, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, it does nothing. It doesn't diminish what came before. That's all still there.
But no, I remember Julia Louis-Dreyfus was in the top 10 list on Letterman's last episode. Did anybody watch Letterman's last night? And it was like, I can't remember even what the top 10 list was, but her joke was that she was now a part of 2 disappointing series finales.
Yeah,
because it was the last Letterman episode. Is that what it was? Yeah.
Were there any other finales you wanted to touch on at all?
Well, the other giant one for me was Twin Peaks. Both the finale, the season 2 finale, and also the more recent return finale. We don't have to go into it. That's a whole episode or 10 on its own. But yeah, that was a big cultural moment for me.
Victory is at hand. The party's over. White Queen. It's time for the last act. Black Lodge. The final episode of a television legend. It's the 2-hour conclusion of Red Room. Twin Peaks. Monday.
I will say that I wasn't a huge fan of the season 2 finale, but I am of the season the more recent finale.
Yeah. I missed out on Twin Peaks. I mean, in the sense of it just wasn't in my realm as a kid. I was more of if I'm going to go with weird adult TV shows, I was a Northern Exposure guy.
Are you ready to expose yourself?
How about showing me your brownie?
No?
You're kidding. Not bad.
To an all-new season.
Sex is fun. Take these off right now. No. Sex is good. Here. Yeah. Sex is great.
Northern Exposure season premiere in 2 weeks.
Oh, I love that. Which was filmed just up the road from where I grew up in Roslyn, Washington.
Yeah, I love that show. That was like one of my big shows growing up. Northern. I just loved it. Again, missed the finale. Have no idea.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about it. But hey, if you love, The Prisoner, you might want to try give Twin Peaks a shot.
Twin Peaks, yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah. That's right.
In a good way. Yeah. Just also filmed in Washington.
No, you know what finale I was thinking about as I was preparing for this? I was trying to think, well, what are some of the big ones I saw as a kid? And you know what one I remembered watching? And it's a show, I guess I was 11 when it ended, but just because it was on so late, I never watched a lot of Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the finale. And I remember it was a Friday night, and my family, we were camping. We had a camper down on the Jersey Shore that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then every weekend we'd go down. I remember watching Johnny Carson's last Tonight Show on like a 9-inch little TV, with an antenna.
You people watching, I can only tell you that it has been an honor and a privilege to come into your homes all these years and entertain you. And I hope when I find something that I want to do and I think you will like and come back, that you'll be as gracious inviting me into your home as you have been. I bid you a very heartfelt good night.
And what I remember about that was seeing how important it was to my dad.
Yeah.
Like it was like really like you could see in his eyes that this was like the end of an era. And that always, that stuck with me more than the finale itself, which I don't really remember a whole lot about the show, but remember how moved my dad was by it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really neat to see how it's affecting those around you. Yeah. It's cool.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, now having been yourself a part of a huge series finale,
yeah,
one that is going to be talked about, analyzed, and remembered fondly for years to come, does that affect how you as a fan look at series finales? Like, when you watch a show end, will it be just a little different for you now? Just wondering how that affects you from not just as an actor, but as a fan.
I'm not sure yet. I always knew that they were emotional, and that always see like behind the scenes photos or videos of cast members crying and hugging, and in my mind I always think that like they do the episode, and on the final day there's this emotional moment. But now I know that it's sort of there throughout the whole series. Every time, the episode rather, not series. Like every time you do something for the last time, it's a moment. It's a moment of reflection of what's happened and that it'll never happen again. So it's there's a lot of sentimentality to filming a finale, and then there's a lot of really fighting against that to focus on the work and to do the job, which people on Saul were very good at. I mean, they're so professional and such great artists in every department. But yeah, it's I guess what I'll take from it is knowing that it is just as big and important and emotional for the people who are making it as it is for the folks who are watching it.
Hey, we have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Anything you can share about what's next for you? Any upcoming roles? Has anything developed in the last couple of months that you are able to talk about?
It's not really anything new from when we talked. I don't know what we talked about last time, but I filmed a few movies over the pandemic that are in various stages of post-production right now. There's one called Flamin' Hot, directed by Ava Longoria. A Western called Surrounded, starring as one of Michael K. Williams' last films. And a really great kind of black comedy called Maggie Moore's, directed by John Slattery, with Tina Fey and John Hamm in it.
A movie starring Tina Fey is currently in production here in New Mexico. The state film office says Maggie Moore's will be shooting in Albuquerque through next month. It takes place in a desert town where nothing ever happens, says a police chief is suddenly faced with the murders of two women with the same name. The production will employ about 60 New Mexico crew members and 150 local background actors.
So I've a really small part in that, but yeah, I have a bigger role in the Flamin' Hot movie. I essentially play one of the main antagonists, and it's sort of like an evil Bill Oakley type character, which I hope will be fun. But I think those are coming up next at some point, and then otherwise I'm just plugging away looking for the next thing.
Very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. We mentioned this last time, but you're on Cameo, right?
I am on Cameo. Yeah. If you need a shout out from me or from my cats, which is mostly what people want, and that's fine with me. Yeah.
Or Bill Oakley. Do you ever do a in character Bill Oakley?
I feel really weird about it.
Yeah, I would too.
I feel weird about putting my own words in his mouth when it's like, I feel like that's somebody else. Yeah. I did do it once and it was fun and it turned out well, I think. But generally, I just like to be myself.
Understandable. Hey, on Twitter, I noticed recently, didn't you put your cats in the finale, like different pictures of the finale? Isn't that what you did?
Better Call Saul Saturday. This whole season I've done, I don't know why or how it started, but every Saturday after an episode aired, I would show production stills of Toby and June, of the work they did in each episode as actors.
That's great.
So yeah, that goes all the way back to the 601, and actually a few days before, the promotional photos for season 6. I threw them into there. But one of these days, I'll connect them all together into a thread or something and pin it. But for the dozen people who like it,
and then I'll create my own fan theory of like the parallel, how it all mirrors each other. And
there you go. The chiral cat theory.
Then we'll put cats in The Sopranos and it'll all connect.
There it is. That's the answer.
All right, Peter, it was so great having you on the podcast again today. Thanks for your time.
Oh, you too, Chris. Joe, thanks for having me back. Always a pleasure.
You're gonna have to come back on and watch a Quantum Leap episode with us sometime.
Let's do it. When you get to the Man of La Mancha one, that was always my favorite when he sings, because Scott Bakula is such a great singer. That one, or the like Stephen King one, the Boogeyman, I think is the name of the episode. That was my favorite. Let me know when you're there.
You got it.
We will make a note of it.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks so much.
Yeah.
You bet. We'll see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, we hope you all enjoyed that. It was just a tremendous honor to have Peter Diseth on the podcast again. And hey, depending on when you listen to this, you know, one of his films might be coming out in the coming months. And so go find a way to go see it, find a way to stream it, whatever it happens to be. Support him and appreciate where he's headed in his career. Hopefully it's with other great things. Him and his cats, they're headed up, baby. Joe, if fans, listeners have other things to comment, where can they find us? Especially if you want to tell us your own favorite series finale. Where can they find us, Joe?
Sure. If you want to hit us up on social media, we're Nostalgic Future Podcast. That's on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. And on Twitter, we're Past Future Pod. And you can email us at nostalgicfuturepodcast@gmail.com.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Nostalgic Future Podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at nostalgicfuturepodcast@gmail.com. We may just read your letter on an upcoming show. Follow us on social media, Nostalgic Future Podcast on Facebook and @Past Future Pod on Twitter. Please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review to help support what we do. Until next time, remember, the past is the only way forward.
Wake up, honey, wake up. For the love of criminy, what is it? What's the matter? Oh, I just had the scariest dream. I told you not to eat those deep-fried Twinkies.
No, you don't understand. I was this meth dealer.
What?
Yeah, I was this world-class chemist, and I cooked and I sold this ultra-pure methamphetamine.
You cooking anything?
There was a guy who never spoke. He just rang a bell the whole time. And then there's another guy who was a policeman or a DEA agent. I think it was my brother or something. He looked like the guy from The Shield. And I had a shaved head and a goatee, and I wore a black hat. And the only thing that made sense in the whole dream is I still walked around in my underwear. Oh, God, it was so strange.
I know. Okay. Go to sleep, Scarface.
Nice, Skylar.
Life is unfair.